Okay, so we're going to get underway now. There will be people joining us late, but there's quite a number of people on this webinar, so we've automatically muted everybody's microphone out. That doesn't mean you can't ask questions. In the GoToWebinar dialog box, there's an area in the bottom where you can ask questions, and feel free to ask those questions using that method, and I will put the questions to Matt, who will be running the demonstration. I'm Andy Mason, a pre-sales consultant here at Enhance, and I'll be joined on this webinar by Matt Fletcher, the CEO at Sharperlight. Enhance partnered with Shaperlight earlier on in the year, and we're quite excited about the technologies and the ease of use of this as a reporting tool. And my analogy is, if I can use it, anybody can, and I picked it up fairly quickly. So without further ado, I'll hand you over to Matt Fletcher, the CEO at Sharperlight, who will take you through the demonstration this afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm so pleased that you've joined the presentation today. It is my pleasure to bring Shaperlight to you and our current drive, Sharperlight What's in the Box. The purpose of this presentation is to demonstrate how Sharperlight can be effectively used within the organization as a tool set that gives you intelligence and allows you to very quickly grab the kind of data that you need in your systems to make sense for your own systems. So if we look at the overview for today, we're going to have Sharperlight. We're going to look at the presentation mediums that Sharperlight uses. We have a strong web browser presence. The web browser delivers reports, charts, dashboards, and intelligence to a browser or a phone. We're going to look at how an application can be extended to deliver custom views of the data delivered in Excel, and all of that process is easy to use and quick to learn. And so the purpose is to bring together BI reporting and integration into a single modular solution, which is Sharperlight. If we were to look at the structure of how Sharperlight interacts with Dynamics GP, you can see that the Sharperlight data model, the green section in the middle, interfaces directly with the Dynamics GP blue section, which in this representation is the database. It doesn't use the application layer, which means that Sharperlight can extract data directly from the database. It means that the data delivered into Sharperlight and presented on the Excel interface or the web interface is what's in the database. It is a modular and secure configuration. It delivers BI to the various tool sets across the web interface and also in Excel. It is a unified solution, which means that you can have a Sharperlight data model that connects to other things other than Dynamics GP. And so when you try to make sense of data within your organization, you can look across systems, which is a significantly enhanced opportunity. That looking across the systems allows you to extract intelligence from the applications that you're using, and it's only yourselves that know how that configuration must be looked at or reviewed. Nobody can, no big enterprise can sort that for you, and Sharperlight is a tool set that allows you to do so in a custom and efficient manner. Sharperlight is easy to install and configure with Dynamics GP. Essentially, the Sharperlight installation is maybe a 15 to 20 minutes operation. The connector just needs to be configured. Once connected, Sharperlight is ready to work. It's often that I've done installs myself remotely where the installation is completed and I can begin reporting from those systems within half an hour. Sharperlight is built in Australia and we sell it internationally through a partner channel, and we're happy to be working with Enhance who have engaged all of you. On a recent trip to the UK, I was pleased to meet with a client who said that Shaperlight is the most important software that they use. That was Goodwood Festival of Speed, and we were pleased to be part of the analysis which allowed the Goodwood Festival to increase the number of stands that they were intending to have, and that was based on information coming from the ticketing system but also Dynamics GP, and together Shaperlight was able to give them some insight into whether reaching out and purchasing another stand would be a good idea. So what I would like to do is to have a look at some of the features that that come with Shaperlight. So Shaperlight has two versatile containers. These are visualization containers. They allow you to see the data that's in the system at this point in time. There is an Excel add-in. It is an open report template, and it gives you a refresh to live data. You can easily build your own reports over the GP system, and you can save your reports, save those reports as templates for others to just open, change some parameters, and refresh. We have a large client base using the Excel add-in, and it remains a solid feature. Recently, the Excel add-in has attained some new features, some new components which make it even more appealing as a tool set. You can, for example, create a report over an existing company and with a click of a few buttons have that same report execute for every company in separate worksheets. You can also use the caching technology to improve the speed of individual reports. So there are a number of new features that have gone into the Excel add-in. The web channel remains a solid delivery visualization container. It has the strengths of being a read-only publication, and it's a publication to a wider audience rather than submitting Excel worksheets. A landing page or a URL, a link can be sent to somebody, and the person, assuming they've got access to Shaperlight, can log in and refresh the data that exists in the systems at this point in time. The interesting thing about the web is that you can consume that data on multiple devices, from a phone to a tablet to your PC. Data can be extracted from the web interface to Excel if that's the way you want to do it. And you can also see that data as tables and charts and other forms, which we'll see today. Both of these visualization containers are used to get the most out of Shaperlight. They're not exclusive of each other, and they support different parts of the team, and that's what we'll go through today. The first part we'll concentrate on is the Excel add-in. You're able to extract data from any data model into a cell or a table. It is a fast method of extracting data. It provides drill down to the data that makes up the aggregated data set. It is refreshable. It provides lookups, and of course you can create any style that you want. You can create the tables that feed charts, and then you can pass that template to somebody else. It also contains, or now contains, the splitter functionality, which allows you to copy the sheet and split it across multiple companies or multiple date ranges or multiple cost centers or multiple locations. You choose how you want to split that data. So let's step out for a moment and have a quick look at the Excel add-in in practice. Okay, so you should see on your screen, you should see an Excel worksheet, and what we'll do is we'll go and grab we'll just have a look at the first page of this worksheet. This would be an example of a template that's maybe a report pack. This one actually comes with the Great Plains solution. It's one that we deliver to you, but it can be extended or changed and modified as you need. It is the Dynamics GP Shaperlight Report Pack version 2.3. in it, we try to demonstrate the number of styles of reports that can be easily created. The first one is just a table listing, and we can see that Shaperlight delivers data directly into a full Excel table, and that full Excel table can be configured or can be designed as required using Excel's own functionality, its own styles. What we'll do is we'll have a quick look at creating our own table of data to try and to show just how Shaperlight can deliver a table of data. So we will grab a new worksheet, and we can imagine that I'm a business analyst at this point. I've got a full license to use Sharperlight. The add-in, the Sharperlight add-in, appears at the top ribbon of Excel from version 2007 upwards. The 32 and 64-bit version of Excel are supported. The first thing we want to do is to select a cell somewhere off the top cell A1 and click the table button. This gives us access to what we call Query Builder. Query Builder is made up of 3 sections: a filter section, a selection pane, and an output pane. Your first choice is where do you want the data to come from, and so clicking what we call a lookup button, you can choose the connector. Remembering the image that I showed before, these are the green connectors that connect to different systems, and you'll notice that Great Plains Microsoft Dynamics GP is one of those. Selecting the product allows me to reach into the company. Now at this point I only have access to, or I only have, one company to report from. So my company is 2, and if you had multiple companies in that list that were linked to the Dynamics database, they would also be listed in this list, and you would simply be able to select one or multiple to report from if that was your desire. So you can multi-select companies, and you can report across companies. So we're going to select number 2, and we're going to select a table to report from. Now, the number of tables is shown in this list. You can obviously search for the table that you're after. So we're going to have a look for all transactions, and we can begin to see the transactions listed. So if I was to search for example, the sales table, I can see that underneath transactions I have a sales table. So we're going to select the sales table, and immediately a number of pink backgrounded cells pop up into the filter section. These are the report filters, and because they're pink, these are the mandatory filters, and they require an entry, and that requirement is just for query optimization. So we don't necessarily want a query running over sales. That doesn't have a limiter to tell us whether it's going to run over the historical data, exclude the historical data, or include both historical and actual data. So that's an important consideration. So Shaperlight can work across both the actual and the historical data in a single query. So let's, for our table of data, we're going to go and grab a couple of filters. We want to filter by maybe the document date. So I'm going to search for the document date. Okay, I locate the document date and I simply drag it to the filter section. Now I can, at this point, I can enter some date parameters, and I know this data set is futuristic, so we're going to go for the 31st of the 12th 2018. So that's my document date already filtered, and what we'll do now is we will go to a sales territory, and we will grab a sales territory, noting that we may want to go down to the territory's master and pick up a description as well. And so I drag, in order to see some output, I simply drag the column across from the selection pane to the output. Now the selection pane is populated by me choosing a table. So when I choose a different table, a different selection pane listing appears. you will always be able to tree search that listing, and you will be able to drag outputs and drag filters to the top. Okay, so now we need a subtotal. Now when I drag the subtotal, notice that it is already summed. So if I execute this query as it is, I'm going to get a sum of the subtotal for the sales territory with the sales territory description. Okay, I can see that I've got I've got territory 1 to 8, and they are defined as they are with their descriptions. And at this point, I can apply that to my Excel workbook. It's going to be called Sales 1, and I have my table applied to the workbook. Now, I can go in and modify this. For example, I don't want to see the sales territory description. That's too long. I'm just going to say this is the description. Okay. And you can see that my report is changing. I can add columns, I can remove columns, and I can move forward. And I can also base this query off some parameters that I want to enter onto the sheet. So let's put the company 2 in there, and let's put a date range. We'll go from, and we'll go to. Now I could choose any cells to do this. I don't have to choose any particular cell. So Sharperlight is quite happy to use any cell that you provide. 31st of the 12th, 2018. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bind these values to my worksheet. So what I'm doing is I'm actually providing a reusable template to anybody who wants to come in and use this worksheet. For example, if I double click 2, I get a lookup that's associated with that cell B3. Now you need Sharperlight you need the Sharperlight add-in in order for that to happen, but a full user of Sharperlight would be able to do exactly this. They would be able to refresh the worksheet, they would be able to jump onto the date and choose an offset, or go back maybe a year, so we'll go 17, and you'll see that the figures change straight away. Already we got an extra one inside. What we'll do now is we will add a chart to this, and we will grab maybe a pie chart. Okay, so we've got territory 1 to 7. That's cool. Okay, so very quickly I've been able to grab some data out of Great Plains. I've been able to define the query which runs directly over the database, delivering that data to the Excel worksheet. Whenever that worksheet is refreshed, that is the data that exists in Great Plains. So you'll notice it is currently clear. If I was to refresh this worksheet, it takes a fraction of a second to populate. That query is executed against the database, populating that cell. Now, one of the really neat things that you can do in combination is you can take a chart or something that you've derived from a Sharperlight query, and you can put it into, having linked it using Microsoft's technologies, you can link it to a document that you're creating. So we run, for example, we run our own board reports this way. We have an Excel workbook that calculates, and then we have a series of linked tables and charts that give us our board reports. That means that you could come into the board report, add some details, and still have this workbook linked to the Excel chart. So, for example, if we were to refresh the data by changing a field and pressing enter, you will see that both the chart in Excel and the chart in Word are refreshed, because this chart is linked to the data set in the Excel workbook. Okay. All right. So that's one interesting way to use Sharperlight for static reports, board reports, etc. What we'll do now is we'll add a bit more interesting information. Can you see in Territory 1, Illinois and Missouri, there was a $16,000 subtotal. Let's drill into that. And so to drill into this detail, all I need to do is double click. Now that double click gives me a drill down summary. I can click on the drill down summary, and I can choose some additional components. So let's have a look at maybe the customer name. We'll grab the customer name and the customer number, and when we press OK, we should get a total of 16,047. And now we can see what customers in those territories gave us the total. So without having done anything more, for those power users or those users in Excel, those full Excel or Sharperlight users, they have this instant access to drilling in to get more details. What we're going to do is we're going to take this Excel worksheet. What we're going to do is we're going to take this worksheet and we're going to provide or define a drill down. So now you're a business analyst and you want to provide a consistent drill down so that anyone looking at that data set could automatically drill into the subtotal and see where that figure or what that is what that figure means. Let's grab a new drill through, and this is going to be called subtotal details. Okay, and this can of course be called as whatever you want, and it can also have multiples. So and that becomes interesting because you might want to drill down into the subtotal, but you might also want to drill down into the region. You might want to drill into see who the salesperson is, as opposed to just having one drill option. You might want multiples, and that's why drill through exists. So what we'll do is we'll click the Edit Query button, and now we're editing the query for the drill down. Can you see that there's a parent-child relationship now, where the child is what's going to be the details of what we're looking at. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to say that our date is definitely going to come from the parent query, and the sales territory is also going to come from the parent. And so I can link the sales territory to the sales territory details. Now, all I have to do is add my customer name and my customer number and customer name, and I should be ready to go. So that's subtotal details, close, preview, and now if I right click on that, I've got subtotal details on my row, and if I click on that, I should get the cellular details as I was expecting. Perfect. Now what's interesting is that having clicked OK, I've now modified this query for this result set. And now when I double click on the 16,000, I get my subtotal details drill through. And if I click on my sub details drill through, I get the Explorer window straight up. I also have the option of extracting that subtotal to a new sheet. Now this is a bit like pivot tables do. They allow you to drill down, and when you click on that button, you get a new worksheet. And so this is a new worksheet. The difference, however, is that instead of this just being a new worksheet, this is a whole new report. We can, for example, come into the date, and we should be able to modify that, and click the button and have it execute. So it can be more than just the result set of a drill. This becomes its own report. Okay, all right. So that's really interesting, and that is the basis of the Excel add-in. If you can get hold of that as a tool set, then you can use Sharperlight for a variety of tools. And if we look at some of the others that have been created, we can see, for example, if we go down to sales analysis, we can see combinations of charts coming through, and looking a bit further on, we can see an interesting style of report called a P&L report, which has filters, row level filters for each different area. And so you want to be able to create a report or create a query for a single cell, and this performs very, very well. Instead of being concerned about thousands of queries, individual queries on a worksheet, we have case management, which helps us to improve the performance. If I was to, for example, change 2014 to a different period, 2014-7, you would have seen within maybe a second all of those queries refreshed. I'll just change that back to 4. So that happens very, very quickly. And Shaperlight has a name for performing well. And the good performance of the system can be basically drawn down to optimized queries run directly over the information that's required. So only the information is returned. Only the data that's required is returned, rather than being all bloated. Okay, so what we've done is we've used Excel to create our own chart indicating the sales by territory with an associated drill down. We've basically taken a whirlwind trip around the Excel add-in, and what we'll do now is hop over back to the presentation to see where this takes us next. Okay, so we've created a sales total chart, and we've linked the chart to a Word document. Now we're going to have a quick look at the web channel. And for those of you who have just been working in the Shaperlight Excel, the web channel is a very interesting way to distribute data or publish data to the wider audience. You can see straight away on this dashboard, it is a web page, and each of those components is delivered using Shaperlight. So it's not just a table of data, it's not just a smart list, it is a delivery of that data and a presentation of the data as you want to see it. So users can create dashboards, they can create tables, charts, they can have embedded data, embedded or embedded JavaScript, and they can also interact with external data. So you can begin to see actuals and budgets together and associated a forecast if that's what you need to see, and it can be presented in a medium that allows a lot of people to view it without them being able to change it, whereas Excel has the ability to be changed. With the web channel, we're expecting departments to have their own landing pages, and those landing pages are simply iframes that can be embedded in other landing pages or your existing landing pages. You can have just a Shaperlight new page or an iframe and direct that iframe to a Shaperlight report. And that Shaperlight report, that one report, might have several other reports associated with it. So it's a bit like Inception, where you have an entry page, but that entry page can call 20 other reports, and those reports can have drill downs and other bits and pieces. So let's have a quick look at the web channel. So we've got our chart or our report that we created. What we're going to do is we're going to take this report and we're going to publish it and make it so that other people can use it as well. To do that, I need to have rights. I need to have permissions to do so. And what I do is I head over to the query builder, and you'll notice that there are many options. It is quite an advanced tool set. The option of publisher exists straight from query builder. You can get to it other ways, but this is quite a simple way of doing it. So I've got 113 published files on here already. What I'm going to do is under DGP, I'm going to create a new one. So I just go new. I give it a code of sales territory enhance, something like that. And I'm going to give it a group of DGP. And these groups and codes can be made up by yourselves. Sales territory with drill down. Okay, and essentially that is all I need to do. So I can apply that. What I'm going to do is grab the link for the report, and I'm going to say, I'll just apply that, and I'll head over to a browser. There's a browser. I'll start a new tab, and what I'll do is I'll just paste it into my browser. Okay, so what we've got is the filters have come through. So they've come through as a single line, and so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stack the filters. I find this bit of exchange really quite timely. It's very efficient because I can pass the URL to the report requester, and I can be sitting in Publisher and I can say, well, do you want all those filters? And they'll say, no, I want to see a single list of filters. And so I can position them that way. By swapping between these two things, I can have an interactive report designing session with the client. You'll notice that there are quite a few in there. They don't want to see them all, so we'll go, okay, we'll hide this one, hide that one, and hide the transaction number. Okay, so then we apply that, we refresh that, and they're gone from the list. So that is a very straightforward and simple process. Then they can submit that, and the data set is returned straight away. And this could be on a phone, which would look a bit like this. Wait for that to come through. So that is typically what a phone would look like. And we'll turn one of the other pages onto that. So let's have a look at some of the other things that come with it. So what we can do is we can click on that, and we can click on, we want to see this as maybe a pie chart. And so we can click on pie, and that same data set can be consumed as a pie chart. Now the interesting thing is that if I was to look at this data set, I can right click on it and I can click subtotal details. This is what we defined in Excel. So clicking on those details takes me to the result set. There's our 16,000, which is exactly where we got to. All right, so let's have a look at our chart. This represents the same data, the same query. I can click on one of those sections, and I've got the details of that section. So there's our 16,048. Let's choose a different one. That's 30,055. Click on sub details, and there's the 30,050 close. Okay, all right. So the drill down follows the query. Once you've created the query, it allows you to reuse that query to deliver the data in other mediums. And the other mediums are essentially a table, a grid, column charts, all sorts of different chart styles, calendar charts and tree maps. It also includes the ability to pivot. It also includes the ability to drill down. What is expected is that this DGP sales test essentially would end up on a Great Plains or a GP landing page. And that DGP landing page is exactly what you would expect a department to land on. It could be finance, it could be the finance department landing page with charts and gauges and KPIs and other things that relate to the department, but it could just as easily, with a slightly different code, it could be the warehouse. It could be it could be a picking list and KPIs and other things that relate to that specific department. And all of those can be created using the Sharperlight Publisher toolset. All right, so what we have here is we have a landing page with a number of reports that have been bolted into that report. So if we were to have a look, for example, at the first one, this is just an example of a table of data. However, this table of data, they're related to each other in that if I was to click on a row, I get filtered data on the right-hand side. And so by clicking on these rows, I dynamically filter the right-hand side. Of course, I still have access to changing filters. Okay, let's have a quick look at another one. Okay, we can start to see that we can put colors on the table. It's not just a flat table of data. It is in fact a representation of data that makes it easy for exceptions to be identified. Okay, we'll have a quick look through here. All right, so we created a total sales by region. The final component we want to look at today with what's in the box is the ability to automate reports. And Shaperlight comes with the capability of using what we call scheduler to run a series of report and or exception-based reports with email, potentially email notification that will execute as a process. So it's procedurally driven automated reporting. And the interesting thing about that is you can run a query which gets a combination of customers to email, for example. You can open a previously created Excel workbook. Then on a condition, you can email that workbook having been recalculated for that specific client with contents that relate to that specific client, maybe special price lists or their statements, for example. And you can bolt in various HTML components into your email. You can parameterize it, and you can send that off, and then that will execute based on a trigger. And your triggers could be date-based or sequential, or even interact with the Windows event log. So scheduled tasks is an interesting automation component within Shaperlight that requires a 5-user license, but allows you to automate a series of reports to a wider audience, sending them by email or saving them, not emailing them, but saving them in a location or sending them a URL. Your report is ready, click on this link, and it'll head over to, for example, a website. Okay. All right, we'll head over to the scheduler. We'll go down that. Okay, so to wrap up, Shaperlight will provide a wide-reaching unified reporting, exception-based reporting, integration and consolidation across the whole enterprise, providing real-time live access across multiple platforms. That's our intention. Shaperlight can access your data, and all you need is a connector to that data. Shaperlight can be that connector. Out of the box, you get a framework that is flexible enough to meet reporting needs, unique needs, and they can be complex needs. Shaperlight has the capability of delivering complex reporting. Use Shaperlight to transform the way your organization sees and uses data, from working lists, replacing those smart lists with interactive lists that provide drill down, provide colors and capabilities to identify where the business needs to go. Okay, I've reached the end of my section. I will hand back to Andy at this point.
Yeah, thank you very much, Matt. Fairly late in Western Australia, so thank you for joining us. If there are any questions and you want to take them offline, then please feel free to contact your account manager, and we will be following up on this webinar anyway. But I'd like to thank you for your time and attendance on this webinar this afternoon, and hope you managed to get quite a lot out of it and see what Shaperlight could do for your organisation. Once again, thanks for your time, and a very good afternoon.